job basically boils out to be one thing, is to serve the customer. Simple.
And I listen. I really listen to what they want. And it helps me take care of their needs.
Make them happy. That's all we're there really to do, and of course, make a sale, make money for everybody.
Good morning, Mark Burgess. How can I help you today, Miss Hughes?
Well, I have an appointment.
Yes, ma'am. I saw your name on this morning's schedule. Here it is. You're experiencing brake noise.
Well, there are two problems, really.
Now, we're dealing with two issues. We'll be concentrating on occasional stalling when slowing from expressway speeds to a stop.
Yes.
And specific grinding or scraping noise in front when braking. Earlier you mentioned that you had about 28,000 miles on your car. Well, let me show you what a lot of my regular customers use to plan their vehicle's maintenance needs. This is the maintenance recommended by the engineers who designed your Corolla. Now, what I would suggest is to put your Corolla into a regular maintenance cycle beginning here.
Makes sense.
May I have your okay right here?
What is more important, selling service or selling customer satisfaction? Is there a difference? Can you have one without the other? And how do they impact the real world of the service lane? Now, in the next few minutes, we'll look at those questions and others as we dramatize a focus group of Toyota ASMs talking about what they do for a living, what they do for customers, how they do it, and why they do it. Now, this program is the first of two on selling service and customer satisfaction. Here we'll be looking at the 5 steps on the road to a sale, which will be presented in a role play. Now, periodically, we'll be checking in with our real ASMs to get their comments about the way they do their jobs. In the second program, we'll look at the 5 steps to active service delivery in much the same way. It's important to watch both programs because together they make the perfect 10. 5 steps to selling service and 5 steps to service delivery. Well, everyone's in place, so let's get going. Ready to watch some action?
Sure. Sure.
Good. Now, as we watch, we're trying to isolate each step on the road to a sale, and there are 5 of them. So when you see a step, speak up, don't be shy about it, and we'll pinpoint that step and we'll rate the ASM on how well he did, and you can comment on anything that you might do differently. Agreed?
Just say stop when we want to.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Okay, well, it looks like we're all set. So let's take a look now at our very first sequence.
Good morning, Mark Burgess.
Good morning, Mark. Helen Hughes.
How can I help you today, Miss Hughes?
Well, I have an appointment. I need someone to look at my car. I'm having a problem with it.
Yes, ma'am. I saw your name on this morning's schedule. Here it is. You're experiencing brake noise. I also noticed you don't have a service file with us. Is this your first visit to us for service?
Yes. You were recommended to me by a friend.
Good. Now, are you the person who drives the car most often?
Yes. My daughter also drives it.
I'd stop it right there.
Okay, Norman, what's the step?
A greeting. It was prompt, friendly, and to use the customer's name.
So the first step on the road to a sale is the greeting, with friendliness and using the customer's name as part of the greeting, right?
And at the points of shaking the customer's hand and introducing himself, and then taking the time to go over his appointments and familiarize himself with the customer's name. It's an important touch that customers notice.
And that'd be a possible customer satisfaction point as well. How about an overall rating for this?
7.
8.
7.
Okay, we'll call that 7.5, I guess. Not bad. You ready to see some more?
Sure.
Okay.
Here we go.
Now, are you the person who drives the car most often?
Yes. My daughter also drives it.
Now, would you describe for me what exactly happens when you experience the problem, Miss Hughes?
Well, there are two problems, really.
Yes?
My car stalls occasionally when I'm taking an off-ramp from the expressway.
I see. How many miles do you have on your car?
Oh, about 28,000 miles.
Is there any pattern to the stalling?
No, not that I can think of.
All right. And the other condition that you said you've experienced?
Well, it's in the front of the car. When I'm braking to slow down, I hear a sound,
Well, what does it sound like?
well, scraping or grinding. What sounds to me like metal scraping or grinding against another metal surface.
Do the two things ever happen at the same time?
No, not really. They're two separate happenings.
I see. Is there anything else you've noticed about either condition?
No.
Do you experience either of the conditions apart from the expressway?
Well, the stall seems to happen when I'm slowing to a stop from 60 to 65, but it's not all the time. As for the grinding, I hear it when I'm stopping at a four-way or a light. That same sound is there.
Always at the front of the car.
Yes, it's always in this area here.
How long have you noticed these conditions, Miss Hughes?
Oh, a couple of weeks, maybe a month.
Have they changed in any way since you first noticed them?
Yes, they seem to be both getting worse.
There.
All right, Janet, go ahead.
Well, he's completed this next step, but I have a concern too. Which would you like first?
I'll take the concern first.
Okay. I'm concerned with the use of the word problem. I usually try to use a different word like situation or condition or concern.
Which he did.
Norman, you want to amplify?
Well, I heard that too, but I think what he was trying to do was use the customer's words at the beginning. Then he switched to saying condition after that.
Well, I think that was good, but I did want to mention that the use of the word problem is something to stay away from.
Oh, agreed.
Okay, and the step you saw, Janet, was what?
He was listening to the prime item, and in this case it came down to two specifics, intermittent stalling and brake noise.
All right, so listening for the prime item is then step number 2. What about subpoints underneath that?
Listening and taking notes.
Yeah, very important. I agree with that. It's important to give the customer your complete concentration, and that means eye contact.
Okay, so we've got listen, take notes, and keep your attention totally on the customer. Huh?
Then ask questions. Questions to identify the customer's concern.
Yeah, but there was a question this guy asked that had to do with selling service, too.
And that was what?
He asked about the mileage.
Yeah, but asking about mileage is pretty standard, isn't it?
But standard but essential. You remember the car had no service history file. This is a customer's first visit.
Yes.
And our ability to sell service to the customer is based on the history of the car. To know the needs of the car, we have to have an idea of what it's been through, and we can determine that by the service history in our computer files, or by the mileage of the car, or both, supported, of course, by the questions we ask the customer.
Good point. And let's take a look at what our ASMs had to say about that.
Okay.
Key item would be the mileage on the car and the history of the car. The first thing I do is look at the speedometer or inquire with the customer what is the mileage. I try to get that out of the way in the beginning so that my own mind can be calculating what to sell to them when the opportunity arises. I don't like to be caught off guard. I'd rather already be prepared and know what I'm recommending before the customer ever knows we get to it.
And then figure out the customer's past history, if it's been with us or if he's gone elsewhere, if he knows his history of his vehicle, and let's know as much as we possibly can get from him.
I go by mileage, and I recommend a service according to mileage. And then I ask the customer if he needs anything over and above the service, like such as any problems he's having with his car.
So, ask about the mileage as a natural step of, a natural part of step number 2.
Exactly.
How would you rate the ASM on identifying the prime item here?
9.
I thought he did great.
It's okay by me.
Okay. All right. Good job. Let's move on, shall we?
Have they changed in any way since you first noticed them?
Yes, they both seem to be getting worse. Is that call for you?
Yes, it is. I apologize for the interruption. Would you allow me to take that call? It'll only take a couple of minutes.
Sure, but I am on a tight schedule today.
Thank you very much. I'll be right back.
New step? Do we have a new step here?
No, interruptions can happen anytime, so they don't really fit under any one step.
All right, but how do you handle them when they do?
As courteously as possible. They're part of the business. But I think most customers understand that. Still, asking permission to take that call is a must.
Yeah, but you've got to take the call if there's no backup system to get messages, or it breaks down for some reason.
I mean, why, though? Why do you have to take the call?
If you don't take the call and the person on the phone hangs up, they usually never call back. they go elsewhere. Or I may have a major service standing on the driveway and a stranded customer on the phone. You have to take care of both.
You know, that's happened to me.
Okay, so we'll handle interruptions with being professional, keep things in perspective, don't discount the interruption, excuse yourself as gracefully as possible, and concentrate on the customer when you return. Are we all agreed on that?
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's get back to the role play.
All right.
Would you allow me to take that call? It'll only take a couple of minutes.
Sure, but I am on a tight schedule today.
Thank you very much. I'll be right back. Thank you, Miss Hughes. Usually they take messages, but that was an important call. I'm sorry for the interruption. Now, we're dealing with two issues.
Yes, that's right.
We'll be concentrating on occasional stalling when slowing from expressway speeds to a stop,
Yes.
and specific grinding or scraping noise in front when braking.
Yes.
Okay, fine. I know exactly which technician I'd like to look at this. Rod Morrow, he's a Toyota master, quite a bit of experience. I'll explain to Rod your concerns before he begins his diagnosis, and when he's finished, he and I'll talk about what he's found, what he recommends. I'll call you with the information by at 10 o'clock this morning.
All right.
You may have a telephone number where you can be reached this morning.
Yes, it's 555-9300, extension 385.
And your address.
150 East 35th Street.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like us to check for you today, Miss Hughes?
No, not really.
There, that's the end.
Okay.
Now, that was a pretty good job of moving into the prime item and going into the administrative break without a hitch.
All right, so we're confirming the prime item as our next step, right? Which is step number 3. And part of this step is the transition statement and the administrative break?
Confirming the prime item is the next natural step, but it also leads the ASM to the sale. The transition statement, that's a book term, that puts the prime item to rest. It allows the ASM to tell them what's going to happen, when it will be ready, and any diagnostic charges.
And the administrative break puts a little distance between the customer's concerns and the selling process itself. This is where you get the customer and vehicle information for the repair order.
All right, then. What are the points of the step?
Restating the concerns using the customer's words.
And verbally acknowledging that the customer's understood what you said and that it's right.
You know, offer a solution, a fix.
Well, what does that entail, though, Norman?
Well, the customer wants to know what's going to happen to their vehicle, so you tell them. I mean, now, you can't tell them what's wrong. You can't. You're an ASM, and ASMs don't diagnose. But you can tell them that a good technician is going to be looking at their car, and that you'll be talking with them later, and you'll get back to them with the news, good or bad, as soon as possible.
And give them a time. Otherwise, they're going to be waiting around on pins and needles, not knowing whether they're facing a major electrical failure or a $30 relay.
And you owe it to your customers to ease their anxiety. You don't have to mislead them, but give them as much information as you can. They really appreciate that.
Okay, then what about the administrative break?
A phone number where you can call them back later, a home or business, address, and then you ask them if there's anything else you can do for them.
And then what, move on to the sale?
Well, that should be next, yes.
Well, then, let's take a look and find out.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like us to check for you today, Miss Hughes?
No, not really.
Earlier you mentioned that you had about 28,000 miles on your car. Since this is your first visit with us, may I ask, do you have a regular maintenance schedule?
I get the oil changed periodically and have the car looked at a couple times a year, that sort of thing.
Let me show you what a lot of my regular customers use to plan their vehicle's maintenance needs. Your odometer is just below 30,000 miles, and at that mileage, this is the maintenance recommended by the engineers who designed your Corolla. Now, what I would suggest is to put your Corolla into a regular maintenance cycle beginning here. Keep your car running like new.
Makes sense.
Well, should we do the recommended maintenance now so you won't be inconvenienced later on?
Yes.
All right. The estimate is $271. When I call you later this morning, I'll have specific numbers for completion of the total service. May I have your okay right here? All right. What time would you like your car back?
Well, I have a ride back after work, so anytime after 5's fine.
All right. Would you like to use our shuttle service to get to work?
Yes, thank you.
All right. In just a few minutes, our driver will meet you in our customer lounge. It's right in here.
Now, do we have one step or two here?
too, but it was so smooth that there wasn't any break.
You saw both the use of the service menu, oh, that's a step by itself, and the closing of the cell all at once.
It was very nice.
Okay, so the two steps that we have here now are presenting the service menu as step 4 and closing the sale as step 5, right?
Yes.
Right.
Is that where we are? Okay, well, let's see what our ASMs had to say about it.
We have a brochure that Toyota prints out. It's kind of like a menu. It tells you every 5,000 miles what should be done. Because people like to see something in front of them, like ordering food at a restaurant, exactly what they're going to get. And then they know exactly what they're signing for at that point in time.
In our case, we would usually take an administrative break. It gives us time to go ahead and get some vital statistics on the vehicle, mileage, take a look around with the customer. About that time, we'll also begin to present our service menu and again talk a little bit about the history. Once we've got the confirmation of the problem that they're there for, we can say, okay, we're all set with that. I would like you to possibly take a look at this menu, or I'd like to recommend a few things that I don't know if you've had done with your vehicle yet, and if we can go ahead and get this prime item that you have discussed with us here taken care of, would you allow us to go ahead and service a vehicle while it's here and kill two birds with one stone. Once we get a customer that will stick to our service menu, they find the car lasts a long time, the second car they buy, they'll do the same thing too.
And oftentimes, before you know it, when you're done with the data, they go, oh, why don't you go ahead and do one of these? So they'll sell themselves oftentimes if you just let them have the opportunity.
You can tell if they're interested or not in taking care of things.
A lot of it's my confidence in knowing I can sell that service and knowing that the customer is receptive to what I'm telling them we're doing. So it makes it a lot easier.
Janet, you wanted to say something.
I was going to say that I agree with the comment of what you've done in the opening steps of the transaction will pretty much determine the kind of close that will be necessary. And I would have been working on my close from the moment I greeted my customer. If I'd done all the steps from greeting to the presenting of the menu the way I wanted, my close should have been a simple matter of asking the customer for his or her okay.
Yeah, but the question is, do you get it?
Almost always.
What about you, Brad?
Well, sometimes I'll have to remind the customer of the advantages of doing the service now, but I usually get the okay too.
And always say thank you. I mean, that never changes. Show the customer some sincere appreciation for their business.
Absolutely.
That's key.
The road to the sale is paved with close attention to the customer's service needs and using the proper tools to sell that service. Tools that make up the first 5 steps of the perfect 10. Steps that can lead to successful service selling and customer satisfaction. 5 more steps will be discussed in the second part of this program when we look at active service delivery.